What is going on, guys? This is RMA here with another RMA Fire tutorial. Okay, you see it moving there, and then I am giving it a little bit of color. So let's see. So I have my simulation, which is very high particle count, and I'm using a color. I'm coloring based on the velocity. So if you do color, you put this here, and you do ramp from attribute, and you click V as in your velocity. You can get some pretty cool colors in here. So something like this would look pretty rad. And you can change the range here. Yeah, it's fun to play with. Say, did something like this. And then we're gonna do a particle fluid surface. This is basically what's gonna mesh it. And the particle fluid surface, you can see it's pretty much the slowest part of the process. Because on the particle fluid surface, I'm going to show you. Really, what you want to play with most will be the following attributes. Parameters, the particle separation, which, for example, the lower you go, the higher resolution. The higher you go, the less resolution here. I like to change the droplet scale, because if you make the droplets smaller, they become more detailed. If they're bigger, they feel more blobby. And the transferring of the attributes. So if we add here the CD, you will see in a second, it will include the color that we were playing with into your mesh. And then the last thing that you want to consider is the filtering. So essentially that means that if you do a particle fluid surface, you'll see that 0.1 is probably not the right number for us. Doesn't even show it. 0.04. That's not as high resolution as this, but it should give us some information. See, pretty low res. Go even lower. It's gonna go higher res because this is almost unusable. And then, for example, you come in here on filter and you dilate. This will fill in gaps where you need more particles, and you can also go in and smooth it so that it just like smooths out the mesh a little more. And then the other thing is here we can do, like I said, the CD, and then you get the color from above, which is really nice. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cache this and cache the whole sequence. And I group this as my sim, and I'm grouping this as my collider. Immersion. And now what I'm doing is I'm bringing in my original geometry. What am I doing here? You put an all, and you do out main. You can name anything you want, but usually out means like you're gonna take this somewhere else in the network. Object merge, and we drag it here. And you can take your geometry anywhere in the network that you want. So I brought it down here. I'm doing a UV texture, and I'm doing face as a projection. Quick shade just to make sure that what is it that I'm looking at, right? So this is a simple texture that I grabbed from Megascans to demonstrate the UVing of this, and then I'm grouping it as a box, and then right here on this end, I am kind of trying to match the edge or the area here with our new geometry piece, and then mirroring it, and then mirroring it again, so that we can get it on all these sides. And then once we merge it, we get some pretty cool stuff, because this is kind of like, it's coming to my camera. This is kind of what I was thinking. You get the geometry like this. And then here I'm just playing around with moving it on a different place, and then like mirroring it, so that like you start to create some interesting compositions. And you can create some sort of little bit of animation. If any of you don't know how to do animation, like all you need to do is create a transform, and then you click here with Alt selected, and then here we're gonna just like rotate it, and click Alt, click again, and you will see that this thing basically spins. Right, super loud because it's pretty heavy. But right now you would have something cool, because you have like a nice composition, which is what you were seeing on the original video. Then I'm using a split, and I'm splitting based on, wait for it to load, based on sim group. Remember that we created the sim group up here? Sim. Okay, so what I'll do is, I want to have my out simulation in one node, which is the simulation, and out geo on the other one, out box. So we come out here, and then that means that all of our simulation stuff is here. And then I created another geometry node out here, and called it liquid, because here's where I'm bringing in the liquid part that we had referenced there. So if you do an object merge, and on the object merge we come here, we do out sim, you select that, and that's where we have the sim. And I apply the material, and I'll show you how this material was created in a second. Same thing here, render, but render the geometry. Bringing in the geometry from the other part, like we had left off, but I'm creating a new UV texture. On the UVs, I am scaling it down so that this thing is much tighter and smaller. And then I'm doing a UV quick shape just to double check what that looks like, and I'm adding the material. Okay, so what does that mean that I'm adding the material? I'll show you guys that in a second, but before that, we're gonna look into my dome. So what is this dome doing? Basically, a dome, I'm doing RS dome. What this is it's almost like this, it's a world. It's almost like grabs an HDRI texture, and an HDRI texture is an image that is very long of basically a bunch of photographs of a 360-degree angle. So if this is a person and has a camera right here, it's taking images of 360 degrees, stitching them together, and then this really long image is essentially mapped on the world, on a dome. So our geometry catches reflections that are realistic to the world. Okay, so let's close this. Let's come here, and we are going to come to the light and add a texture. In the texture, I have a bunch of HDRIs that I like. So I'm gonna copy. You basically just copy the path from wherever you save the HDRI. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it here, and that's my HDRI. And then on the environment, I'm turning off the background. I'm removing it from my environment here. And I delete it here, and this is the one that we're gonna use. So we set up. We have a camera. Let's bring in this. Actually, let's look at the geo first. Let's have a look at what I did to the camera. My camera, I changed the view to the resolution that I wanted, and I changed the depth of field. So if you come here and you hit enter and Z on the viewport, you can control the depth of field here, but you gotta enable it here. If you don't see this tab, you gotta go here and do shell and Redshift. Enable Redshift here, and it's gonna show up on your Redshift. Okay, shows up here, so you just select the camera and do camera, and then the geometry and you do object. So we're basically ready to test out a render. The only thing that we need to do is go to our out context and create a Redshift render. On the Redshift render, you can control the quality of the resolution here, of the samples here, and the out wherever you want to save this on your computer. And the main, just choose the camera that you want to use. We're gonna do render view so that we can visualize this on our viewport. And then we go to the material network. Before that, we're gonna copy the hue texture that we're using on the quick shape, and we're gonna go and see what I'm doing on the material. Guys, this is not an in-depth material course. This is very simple material stuff that I'm doing here. I will have in-depth material courses if you guys want. Just shoot me a message and I'll have some of those. I think I know a lot about materials. So you type Redshift material and then you type RS material. You do it Redshift material, that's one. And then the other is RS material. And then you connect this here. And this is this, and this is this. The only thing is that if you click here, you get all the menu, all the fun stuff. So if we do RS texture, and we paste the texture here, we're gonna connect this to the diffuse color. We're gonna duplicate that, and you will see that I save different things about the texture. So the albedo, the AO, the displacement. We're only gonna use the roughness, and we're gonna use the displacement. And the displacement, we will connect that onto a bump map of 0.01, and that is our geometry texture. And then our liquid is just simply a bold texture. RS material, Redshift material, connect this here, make this bold, and change the color here so that you get different shades of like whatever reflection color you want is really what shows in on the bold. So let's come here and let's select our camera. Camera 1. And let's hit render. There is a catch here, and I'll show you guys in a second. Alright, so we get the geometry there. See why it looks so detailed is because on the Redshift object tag I enable tessellation. If you don't enable tessellation, you're really not gonna get what I'm getting. But if you enable tessellation, you need to turn off the smooth subdivisions, or else this thing is gonna be like super, like you don't get sharp edges. So let's just sketch it out because this part is pretty important. Basically, what happens is that the tessellation grabs the geometry. So for example, picture this. This triangle doesn't really have much geo in there. What I mean by that is not like subdivided a ton. So there's not like a ton of detail in it. It's just flat, right? But if we enable tessellation, it makes it like super detailed, and you can increase the amount of detail in here. So it makes a bump, and it makes the reflections, and it makes everything look nice. Now, if you do smooth subdivision, it kind of like whoop, it smooths it, almost like using a subdivision and like smoothing it. So that's why I turn it off. It helps me keep the sharp edges, which is what we want on this sharp geometry. And then if we enable this, you will see that I didn't do it on the liquid, because the liquid is already pretty high resolution, so you don't need it. Let's have a look. And boom, looks pretty cool. So guys, that is the gist of it. I will delete what we created in class, and I will leave this for those of you who want to use this setup and tweak it as is. I think I covered all of the most important things about this setup, and I hope you guys like it, and we'll be back with more.